All right, he's got the hat on now, and he can now talk about does it make good coffee or not.
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Hello, we have another machine we're going to be talking about. So this guy here, Synesso MVP Hydra 2 group, it is a sick machine. Ming and Harry here have been using it on the truck for the past few weeks or months, about 1.5, 2 months now. And it's been amazing. I've been seeing it in action. And we wanted to just talk a bit about this because we did the review before on the San Remo Cafe Racer. We collected a lot of data there, talked about how we like that machine. It's the same thing. We're going to do that here about this MVP Hydra. But personally, MVP Hydra, it is such an amazing machine. Just I like how it looks. Okay, it's like super chromed down and it's got the wood. But one thing that's really amazing about Synesso, in my opinion at least, is really the build. It's like it feels good. Everything you touch feels really, really good. Ming and Harry have been using it for a bit of time, so they'll know a little bit more than me about this machine. I just wanted them to talk about that. But again, shout out Voltage Coffee Supply for hooking us up with this machine. It's been amazing, and yeah, we'll go from there.
All right. My name is Ming. You've seen me here before, but in case you haven't met me, I'm the owner and head roaster of Moonwake Coffee Roasters, and we've been operating this Cybertruck for since the beginning of this year, and yeah, doing different pop-ups and farmers markets and evaluating machines.
I'm Harry. I'm the Coffee Innovation Director at Moonwake. So I've been on bar using this machine a lot, pulling a bunch of espresso, and there's things about this machine that I really liked it and wanted us to use because we serve like dark roast, medium roast, light roast espressos all around and this was able to handle most of that.
Yep, so this is the second machine that we've put on this Cybertruck, and what we've done is we've made this rolling platform where it's pretty easy to take machines out and put them in. So we did have to do a little bit of work in terms of mounting this machine and taking out the cafe racer, the San Remo Cafe Racer, which we evaluated first, and then yeah, it was pretty easy to drop this in and be able to start using it right away at farmers markets.
What we also had to do on top of like the cafe racer is that since it has the pumps external to the machine, we had to mount the pumps to the platform, our Moonwake Coffee Experience platform. So we had to make things fit, but it's not too hard. And it's like overall a little smaller because it doesn't have the pumps integrated in the machine.
Yeah, I think we can jump straight into like the looks and feel of the machine first, especially compared to the Cafe Racer. Yeah, if you compare this with the last video that we did, this is quite considerably skinnier. And so in terms of like right off the bat, it's a much smaller, denser looking machine than a Cafe Racer or a lot of the other espresso machines, which spans a much bigger footprint. But like Harry mentioned, the reason for that is all the pumps are external on this one. So you'll see it later in the footage, but we actually had to put quite a few pumps, hide them behind the machine just to get everything to fit properly because we're on a mobile setup. But yeah, it is very flexible in terms of look and design. This is the chrome version with sort of this lighter wood accents. But plenty of people get these panels painted and powder coated, and it's you can create all sorts of different looks. I think the looks are definitely, opinionated based on the person. I personally think it's a little bit more boxy than some of the shapes that I've liked, and some of the curves of the Cafe Racer I thought were really nice, but
this ended up looking a lot cooler once we actually mounted it compared to what we saw when we were browsing for machines.
Yeah, and in terms of the Cybertruck pairing, I think it's actually pretty good too. Before the wrap, everything was chromed out, and this would have actually matched it perfectly. But yeah, everything else is pretty simple and commercial feeling. Like the displays are, very basic in terms of the information that it shows, but only gives you the critical stuff that you need. And what's really different about the look and feel of this machine compared to any on the market is this guy here.
The external controller.
Yeah, very interesting move on Synesso's part to take all that critical information that you occasionally need, but not during normal operation, and move it all into a separate panel that you can tuck away and keep completely out of sight when you don't need it, which is a really cool design
makes your
feature.
touch points a lot easier because you're not using like a really limited control space to program things, and now you have a whole controller for it.
Yep, yep. And you can, it's pretty small and the cord is quite long too, so you can really get it like out of the way of the barista and keep everything basic and clean when you don't need it.
Especially when you have like all this shelf space below it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the feet are adjustable and you can raise it quite high or low and give yourself more clearance. All right, so this is the Synesso MVP Hydra. This was launched, I think, in 2015 as kind of their like premier top line model. 6 different profiles, individual pumps and boilers per group head, impeccable pressure control and temperature control, a humongous steam tank, and most unique with the Hydra specifically, like they really wanted to mimic some aspects of pressure profiling similar to a lever machine. So it actually has 4 different programmable stages that you can set 3 different pressures for. So a really cool, versatile machine, very different than most that are out there on the commercial market. So yeah, let's jump into the most important aspect, espresso capabilities and workflow.
So since on bar and at the farmer's market, we serve, your standard espresso, light roast for our tonics and our dark roast. We wanted, some like the basics of like having pre-infusion, but also the option to pull espresso at like a 5 bar lower pressure profile and the standard higher bar pressure. But so for us, we do 8 for the medium and 5 for the light roast. And this was able to accommodate for both without having to set like a specific group head at a different pressure. Because with the Hydra bypass, you can tune it so that, on one stage you can have 5 bar, but at max on the main pump you have 8 bar, which is how we're setting it. And with that, we have flexibility on both groups.
Yeah, and especially with decaf, like we end up having 4 espresso grinders now versus the one that we had in the very beginning.
Right.
So like I think really wanting to share the range of coffee is what pushed us to like needing so varied of profiles to be able to optimize, right?
Especially since like I'm a coffee nerd and I wanted to pull modern 5 bar, 6 bar turbos. We were able to present that, especially with like our Ethiopian coffees and our lighter roast citrus that we're using to present like a more floral. And like because of that, we also have like the option of serving like a light roast Americano instead of just like a medium roast, and present it in a way that I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and a lot of people are starting to order that now, so it's actually catching on. But yeah, one thing we do with our light roast beans is we don't really roast like an espresso style for the lighter roast beans. We just have one roast level. And with that, you kind of do need a lot more flexibility with pressure and controlling like either pressure or flow to really bring out the best in those beans. Do you want to walk through what it's like to, workflow wise, program a new coffee, kind of what it's like day to day in terms of operation?
All right, so just like day to day touch points, right? Like you have reporter filter, it locks in. So right here, it's hot, but right here, it's only warm. The feeling of pressing this, pretty solid. It's very tactile and it responds on cue, like when you tap it. Right here, we have profile 1 and 2. You just tap it once on one direction and it'll change it. And then right now we have it on our volumetric settings. And then here we have the steam on. We have this, it comes with this throw handle. Right now we haven't been steaming, so it spurted water, but that it actuates pretty quickly.
Yeah, so one of the cool things is the different modes that this machine has. So right now I'm on more of a manual mode, and this is where I actually can take full advantage of dialing in a new bean in a more natural way. Yeah. So, starting with what we set our pre-infusion pressure at to this, what they call the bypass pressure level, which is, you know, your middle pressure, and then your full infusion pressure, and then back to your bypass, and then finishing the shot. So you can kind of tap through all those different phases at the right moment, either with, you know, a scale based on how much weight you're getting out or some other cue. And the cool thing is that once you have a manual profile that you like, you can tap to the right and you can save it to not just this group head, but both group heads.
At the same time?
Yes, at the same time. And this is a kind of like a very critical feature, I would say, in like, you know, redialing a new coffee in or like adjusting it because there's some parameter difference. This is very, very convenient. So once you save it to your target profile, then you can toggle to the main mode that we're in most of the time, which is VP, volumetric profile. And then from here, it's just, you know, select your profile and then hit 1 to step through those stages. And then this is going to be volumetric based, and based on our data collection and testing so far, you know, it's top notch in terms of accuracy and precision.
I wouldn't worry about, you know, the volumetric being off by much.
Yeah, they're
parameter.
they're clearly using, you know, very good components in here, and their programming is good, and it's very reliable in terms of getting the same profile over and over again. This does get into some small nitpicks I have with the workflow, mainly for us since we're in like a very different environment all the time, sometimes with like glaring light. It's not always easy to see which profile you're on. And I'll be the first to admit that I've pulled a lot of 5-bar dark roast shots at a 3-to-1 ratio, maybe not to the benefit of a customer. So we had to remake some of those. But yeah, I think one thing I would want is some better emphasis on like which profile you're on.
Like color, maybe?
Something like that. It is an easy mistake, especially since we like to do a little purge in between shots, which for us, it means you have to like turn on a profile and then cancel the profile. And then, so if you're doing this constantly, sometimes you might not notice, you might hit it one extra time. You end up in a different
And just
profile.
to add on that, when we're purging, it's like, there's like a, what is it?
Yeah, it's like, ideally, if we could do a quick purge at max pressure, that would be ideal. But when we hit this, it's usually doing the pre-infusion, which is line pressure. So that's why you get like slow flow. So it like purges just a little bit slower.
Yeah, you have to wait for it.
Yeah. Whereas like taking advantage of a paddle, being able to do like a double tap for a purge, you know, would be a very, very nice feature that maybe, you know, will be included in the future date. But otherwise, it's great in terms of dialing in a coffee however you like.
Right, it's great there's only 2 buttons, like left and right.
Once you have stuff programmed in, this interface is pretty straightforward, and it's pretty easy to use. I guess the last nitpick I would probably have is if you do need to switch to manual dialing in of different beans all the time, the way that you switch modes, you have to hold this for in a rush environment, what feels like an eternity.
Yeah, it's just enough for my patience.
Yeah. It would be, again, nice if there was a sort of like double tap or other sorts of faster inputs to be able to get to where you want.
Anyway, that's like a really big UX, user experience discussion at that point.
Yeah, and it's also just, it is a minor thing because most of the time, like we said, you dial in once, you get your volumetric profile, and you're there for hours, right?
Yeah, and if the time is not right, you're really dialing in your coffee's grind size rather than like time here or your volumetrics here.
Yeah, and if it is slight adjustments, that gets into the other workflow aspect, which is, you know, how is it using this controller? What would your impressions be of using this?
Oh, so I've used this to set the pre-infusion time to adjust it a little, just to dial in like the pre-infusion. There's just a few button clicks away to do pre-infusions. Like if I had no manuals with this and I just pressed all the buttons, it kind of got me to where I need, like, it was intuitive enough for me to figure out.
Button mashable?
Yeah, it's button mashable. It does have like hidden menus where this does have 6 profiles you can use. So you have to figure out how to use the hidden menu to reactivate or turn off the profiles, because at some point we had a 3rd profile for the dark roast, and now we're just using the same medium roast profile. But that you don't. Most baristas don't need to get to that point.
Yeah, it does point to the thoughtfulness of the Synesso engineers to really like create a secondary menu with all sorts of super useful options.
Yeah.
Like that requires a level of thought that a lot of companies might not go through.
Yeah.
There's like a lockup mode, which I thought was really nice too. It's really easy to accidentally, mess up one of these profiles and save it.
Yeah.
So you can lock that out if you wanted to protect it. Yeah, just really cool. But it definitely is it's no longer a basic workflow anymore compared to your simple espresso machine. Like there is a bigger learning curve, I would say, to get all this understood and through your, like when to use it, especially in a busy environment.
Yeah, but it's perfect for us because this is like the type of stuff we like to mess with.
Yeah, if you played a lot of like video games and stuff, I feel like this is right up your alley. All right, so let's switch to the other huge category that's of utmost importance in your coffee making workflow, and that is the steaming side. So yeah, do you want to go through kind of your initial thoughts after using this?
So sometimes I steam on this side, and when I'm holding the picture here, where this handle is, I wouldn't be standing here to steam all the time. I would stand here. And if I throw this handle, it's gonna knock the steam wand into a different direction. So that's something I have to be mindful of. But like steam quality, steam pressure, how it feels to steam, it's all up to par to like every commercial machine I've used. Everyone does it a little differently. I've actually really liked using it a lot. The one thing, so it's just mostly for me, it's like this handle that I don't really like, but it does allow you to modulate kind of how much steam pressure you're allowing, opening that valve. You can like partially open the valve or full open it, which is, I've seen some, we had some people on bar who actually likes using it at like half open for slower pressure steam. So this one comes on the model we've been using right now. It has a 4-hole tip on this side and a 6-hole tip. This was actually, 4-hole is pretty standard. The 6-hole is actually very interesting. You have to adjust your pitcher in a way for it to vortex differently, or else you're going to accidentally add air. I think it's a very preferential thing, but I think it's interesting that I got to try both of them. The positioning of the steam wand, perfect. I like that. I like these designs where it's like a long steam wand, this cool touch. This long steam wand where I can have plenty of room where to adjust where I put my pitcher. But yeah, it's just mostly the handle that I have some nitpicks on. It's mostly just that when I'm standing on one side, the handle can hit, and it's similarly on that side too.
Yeah, I think it really is accentuated depending on how many baristas you plan to operate the machine.
Yeah.
Like for us, it's a small machine, but we try to max it out by having different people do different operations. So we have somebody pulling espresso and somebody steaming, which means that this person is usually pretty far out to the side to not interfere. I think if you were just one person, like maybe you would keep it closer to the middle.
Yeah, and like here, usually we use this left one the most, and this gets kind of close, even though this is not locked, but like you might, you know, when you're unlocking, you might.
Yeah, so it's like
you have to be mindful of someone steaming.
Yeah, so it's like the distance between that here and then not being able to put too much of an angle here because the handle starts hitting it. So there's some definitely like workable workflow issues.
Yeah. I mean, like for all of the performance specs that it comes with, it's like, yeah, I can work around this.
Yeah.
And one last nitpick is that this has such a big throw.
It does.
So like when I stop steaming, I feel like when I need to stop steaming, I have like a half-second lag just because I'm not gonna like slam it. So there's such a big throw for it.
Yeah, in like the commercial environment where like speed and limited movement really helps, like it compounds over time, right? Even like this half little, 15 degrees that you have to push it.
Yeah.
Is wasted time.
Yeah, like where you give it modularity and the pressure comes with like the con of having more throw to your actuation.
Yeah, but overall, like all of the baristas that we've had on it, both with less experience and a lot more experience, they've loved the steam quality. I think we've gotten steam times down about the same time as all the other major espresso machines. It's faster with the 6-hole, but we still get like 17 seconds to 19 seconds for a huge pitcher for latte size, which matches our data that we've gotten for other machines so far.
So earlier, Ming kind of talked about like the readability of this panel. Well, a good thing about this panel is that like there's no loose parts to it, and like, I mean, it's fairly bright enough. And then one funny thing is that like this thing will go to sleep, and the only way to turn it back on is to actually just start a shot. I mean, I'd have to wait for it to turn off. Another thing about like kind of just a barista's readability of things, this gauge has too much information for me. It gives me bar and PSI. People don't really look at PSI for this. And then, so like if I'm trying to see like, oh, am I at 8 bar? Am I at 5 bar? You know, like there's too much, it's hard to tell. Because you're like, why am I going to 20 bars? Something will explode. Including that, sometimes we use this hot water tap from here when we're doing like an Americano without like a separate hot water tank. So this is a capacitive touch, but when I tapped it, it has a predetermined amount of water comes out, and sometimes if I run it enough, it starts steaming. So I mean, it's like inside, right?
Yeah, so I think that points to like some of the workflow differences that we've faced with something that I think we generally think is really nice, like these paddle operations, right? Very tactile and good adjustments that you can do directly through here. Like you can just set all the profiles if you want through here. But the hot water tap is, you know, by choice, not tactile. And then in terms of flexibility, like one, clearly it's the temperature is set too hot, which is why we're getting some steaming there. But making a quick adjustment on that isn't quick at all. Like we have to remove the side panel to get to the mixing valve to change that temperature. And you know, sometimes we do use the hot water tap for different things. Like we rinse a portafilter, or we want something hotter, or we want an Americano and we want that a lot cooler. So that's kind of impossible to do in terms of quick adjustments.
Because in the past we've had to like adjust the mixing valve in it on the fly too, right? So it's not something that set it and forget it all the time. Sometimes you have to kind of just adjust it.
Yeah, and I think that is a difference between maybe a full cafe build out where you do have different water taps elsewhere, so it doesn't matter too much to you, versus a compact setup where you want to use this machine for everything. But the other big pain point that we have is, again, not only do we want to change the temperature when that comes out, we also want to change how much water comes out. And so being able to do a program volume is nice, but a start-stop would also be really nice if we want to be able to pull more volume for something.
Really flexible, right?
Yeah, and so in this case, we do need to end up going through this profile to be able to, you know, find the menu, and then once you get to the menu, then change the hot water tap time that it's on. So, you know, the amount of steps that I had to go through to get to that and then change that is just not realistic in terms of like doing this on the fly, right?
And if you look lower, we have the drip tray. I actually like this drip tray a lot more from our last one because it has the drain is on this side. This whole thing is inclined one direction, and it's typically we can fix this way, but we can't fix left and right on the car. So it's nice that everything has drained nicely towards one side. The difference between this is, I mean, it's harder to build in a feature, but it doesn't have adjustability. So, you know, like it'd be nicer if our espresso cups were closer. But we just made risers for it on our own.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very easy to work around, but if you are a cafe who has, you know, occasionally uses dose cups, but also wants to use really tall cups, in terms of getting like the preferred height and then going from there, you will have to kind of make risers or find other workarounds to get things to where they need to be.
But as it is now, we're able to put a regular cup underneath.
Yeah, definitely think the height that they chose is still flexible for pretty much everybody's use cases. So Yeah, definitely more minor.
Just to show probably is it's pretty easy to take off the drip tray. It just hooks under.
Yeah, definitely easy to clean at the end of the day.
Like I already went through some of my nitpicks. Was the throw on this, it getting in the way of the handle, some of the readability of this. Well, the readability of the gauge is too much info, but the one thing I wished I had, and it's like not the most important thing, but in our setup, I will notice that the round head screw will leave an indent on our puck. I wish, you know, it came more standard that they use flathead screws for it, but it'd just be nice to see my pucks flat. I'm not sure why it doesn't come standard with a flathead screw, but you know, it'd be like that.
It's just like the GS3. Hello from inside the truck. So I wanted to share a little bit about kind of installation considerations if you're going to go with this machine versus like the San Remo Cafe Racer, for example. That one was probably the easiest machine you can think of to install. Everything is built in. Just need the water line, the power, and the drain, basically. This one, however, you see we've actually pushed this machine really far forward because we have a lot of different stuff going on back here. But we have this pump for the right side group head. We have this pump here for the left side group head. On each of these, we have 3 different pressure adjustments for maximum infusion pressure, your line pressure, and then there's also a knob to turn for the bypass pressure, which is how we get that 5-bar shot. But very complicated plumbing and electrical for all these. And what isn't pictured here is what they call the line boost system. So they actually shipped a 3rd pump as well, which is to boost the line pressure and make it more stable. We physically couldn't even fit that, but we do have like an offboard pump already that's acting as our line pressure. But I want to mention this because this is kind of a machine that's on the other end of the spectrum in terms of external hardware and space requirements that you'll need. So if you're in a cafe and you do have a lot of under counter space and you can, you know, put pumps out of the way in someplace quiet, then you'll end up with a really clean, small footprint machine on the counter and everything will be great. If you're like us and you're mobile or you don't have a lot of counter space already, definitely would consider where these would have to go before you get a machine like this. And you know, these pumps, since we have them external, makes this machine a lot louder, I would say, than our Cafe Racer, which was insulated.
I've heard it be really like quiet on other MVP Hydras just because they had it under the sink.
Exactly.
Or under the counter.
Yeah, so if you have it in a closed cabinet, it'll be great. But not a big deal if you do have the space, but definitely a consideration.
How was calibrating the pumps? I remember when we were...
Yeah,
like, it'd be different if the pumps were here and you're looking at it, right? And you have your skates ready, but...
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing it yourself, it's going to be tough, I feel like, in either case.
Yeah.
But if you have a 2-man operation, one person reading out the pressure while somebody else is adjusting, it isn't the easiest, I would say. It's not something you would do on a daily or weekly basis. But for most people, I think you can pick the right pressure levels that you're going to work with. And
it comes stock with like the ones that you would normally use, but we're just pickier.
Yeah. If you do want to play around, it is available, but it won't be easy enough to do it on a very frequent basis, I would say.
Ming, is this machine sleeping or is it off?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I guess now we know.
Now it's starting. So that's like one big nitpick about the readability, because there was no other way for, like, on this one is still off, so like I can't press cancel to start the to turn on the monitor because I need to tell if it's on 1 or 2 usually.
You can wake that one up.
Oh, this one's on 2 as well. Oh, no, this is on manual.
Well, otherwise, not that big of a deal, I guess.
When you're doing a manual shot, you can always go pull your own manual shots and then dial off of that. So right now, on the first stage, that first mark means it's on the pre-infusion. This is on the bypass pump, which is for us 5 bars. This is at 8 bars, which is on 3, and then on the 4th, it ramps down. And you can always tap right to cancel. So like if I'm just doing this, you can immediately cancel your shot so that you don't have to go through this ramp down instead.
Yeah, or a 5-bar shot, which we go straight into level 2, get our 2.5 to 1, 3 to 1, longer ratio pulls, and then stop it there.
See how long you change the time.
So this is the additional controller for all the more advanced settings. So you can see what we've been setting the group heads to here, for example. And then we can set the pre-infusion time for a particular profile without redoing the entire one if we wanted to. We can adjust the amount of seconds, as well as ramp down if we had it by percentage, and then like the volumetric count, so how much volume is going out. So it doesn't give you the exact milliliters here, but you can get some really fine control if you want to just lessen it a little bit. But yeah, you can go through this. There's settings for your steam temp, which will affect your pressure, your hot water tap, and then backflush options, and yeah, a whole secondary menu that I won't go through, but plenty of other even more fine details that you can tune here. And then you can button mash, and hopefully nothing bad happens.
All right, he's got the hat on now, and he can now talk about, does it make good coffee or not?
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, there was that really great shot of Lyle Taraga I made like at climbing day.
Yeah.
And I think it's largely due to being able to pull a 5-bar 1 to 3 on the fly. And then I think our like medium roast is like super, super sweet. Like
It is, yeah. I would say it's more dialed in now than it ever was.
yeah.
And so if you're somebody who's seeking that level of control over like very, very different roast profiles and coffee types and styles, I think this is like an impeccably great machine to be able to achieve that.
And I don't think there's any other machines around this price range where it is able to have 2 different peak pressures to play with on the same group.
Yeah, this is in a class of very, very few espresso machines that can actually have more than just your pre-infusion pressure and your main pressure, but able to have something in between and to be able to like flexibly adjust.
If we really wanted to, we could have actually gone for more of that lever ramp and ramp down kind of profile, but we're trying to keep it a little more simple right now.
Yeah, I mean, coming from an enthusiast world where there's a lot more bleeding edge stuff happening in that world, it's nice to see machines like this be able to replicate a little bit of that.
Someone's gonna figure out something beyond like a turbo profile, and we're gonna be ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, I think you can go further in this direction in the commercial world in the future, like maybe some true flow profiling, being able to step between and do like more blooming style shots. Like there's still some stuff you definitely can't do, but at least you're able to get like really consistent good shots now at every roast level and roast style, which is like what we mainly wanted. You did mention for the cost, that is one thing I feel like worth mentioning. This is definitely on the very, very high end of espresso machines. So it is not for your kind of like budget shop if you're especially just running very
it's dual
consistent copies.
It's a multi-boiler system.
It's a multi-boiler system. It's a multi-pump system. There's a lot of more complicated controls that this has.
Yeah.
And you really want to be, that's what you're paying for, right? And you want to be taking full advantage of that if you're going to go this route. It's extremely robust and consistent. This thing's built like a tank. Synesso is located in the US, in Seattle. So, customer support has been amazing. And if you're using this, especially in the States, this is like a great alternative to European machines. You'll get like all the parts you need shipped quickly from the factory. So no concerns whatsoever from a consistency and reliability perspective.
Thanks for watching.
Follow me at kimoy.coffee. So this is the Synesso MVP Hydra. It's a great machine. It makes great espresso for us. It steams well, like more than well. I really liked using this on bar every Sunday, and I loved I actually just love making like roast espresso on this because like you can't really do that in the way I like it on a lot. Big shout out to Voltage Coffee Supply for sponsoring us with this machine and everything they've been supporting us. They helped us with even getting stuff even in the shop ordered, and I've talked to them on the phone for like recommendations of like water, and they have a full range of expertise, I would say.
Definitely. And shout out to Brian for letting us use this forum to, show you all this great equipment. And, similar to the first one, our main mission is to be able to showcase great machines like this, talk about their pros and cons, and really help other cafe owners or prospective owners out there make, the best choices they can with the money that they have. So, yeah, thank you so much. This was the Synesso MVP Hydra.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Brian.
Bye-bye.